Welcome everybody to my latest video. So for this video, as you can see, it's going to be about the Neo Geo Arcade Cabinet. Now this is kind of a remake of a video that I made probably about a year and a half ago. And in that particular video I talked about why the Neo Geo arcade cabinets were awesome. And this is kind of just a little more in-depth video regarding the cabinet itself. So, you know, it's pretty much just a rehash, but along different terms. So anyways, as you can see, here is my Neo Geo cabinet. This is a 4-slot Neo Geo cab. The sides have been painted black, not by me. I kind of like it this way, but I've often contemplated removing the black paint because you can see right here the original red siding is still on there. And I can also tell just by looking at the paint. So somewhere along the line someone just painted over this. They probably, I'm assuming, thought about or tried to make this into a JAMA game, which the Neo Geo is not JAMA. And if you hear a little whirling going on, it's because I got my ceiling fan on. But anyways, I can't remember why did I get, or when did I get this. May have been a 1-slot or 2-slot, I can't remember. Anyways, so here's the Neo Geo cabinet. Now, as you can see, it's about the size of any other standard cabinet from that era of time. Now there's a main difference between the Neo Geos and, say, a regular JAMA cabinet. When you went into an arcade, a cabinet such as this had one game in it. Or a cabinet such as this had one game in it. The Neo Geo cabinets had anywhere between 1 to 6 games in them. And that's because the motherboard allowed you, depending on which type of motherboard, to have either 1 game, 2 games, 4 games, or 6 games. Now there are many different Neo Geo cabinets. I believe there were like 4 American models. There were Japanese candy cabinets that were Neo Geos, but as far as what you probably saw in the arcades, there's 4. This one is obviously a 4-slot, and which particular model I don't know, but I'll go ahead and show you right now pictures of those other cabinets. So right here. Alright, so now we're back, and you saw the different variations of the cabinet. I used to have another Neo Geo cabinet when I first started collecting. That one, I believe, was a 2-slot. I turned it into a 4-slot. Love that thing. I ended up selling it because someone made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I regretted it ever since. It took me a while to find another Neo Geo cabinet, and I finally found one many years later. Now, got a little off track there, but as I was saying, most cabinets had 1 game in them. Neo Geo cabinet had multiple games. Now, when you went into an arcade, each arcade cabinet was basically taking up real estate space. So, even though the space that it took up was maybe, what, 3.5 by 3 feet, that was real estate, and that cabinet had to bring in a certain amount of money in order to help the business stay in business. Now, you had some games that were just money grabbers. They made money, you know, quarters left and right, such as the Street Fighter games or the Mortal Kombat games. Other cabinets didn't do so well, so when they didn't perform, the operator would take out the game, remove the cabinet, and replace it with either a different cabinet or a different game. And that was the joy of JAMA. You can just switch out the game board. But again, you were limited to 1 game. Neo Geo, very different. You could have up to 6 games take up the same amount of space as one game. Now, how is that accomplished? As I told you, there were various motherboards. So let me see if I can get my light on here. Let's see. Not gonna work, so let's pause. And then we'll come right back. Alright, so here we are, and as you can see, this is my 4-slot Neo Geo motherboard. And in there I have Baseball Stars 2, Neo Turf Masters, Metal Slug 3, and although there's not a title, Blazing Star. So you can take a look. And this is just, you know, what the motherboard pretty much looks like. No, you know, kind of reminds you of like a 90s console, home video game console, like the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis. As you can see, the games came on carts. We'll get to that in a minute. And there's your harness. There's some other hookups, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, the Neo Geo cabinet on the inside really wasn't any different other than the wiring. You can see your buttons and your joysticks on the underside. Coin counters. This is one of the different hookups which go to the motherboard. But yeah. Where's my monitor? There it is, the monitor adjustment board. Now the Neo cabs also, the back glass or the protector, whatever you want to call it, usually came in a darkened, wasn't clear, it was more dark. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this. And now, a little extra bright light. So now let's get to the games. Alright, so your typical Neo Geo game, instead of being, you know, a PCB board that you're used to seeing, it came in something like this. And it would look, again, like a 90s console video game cartridge. Really wouldn't be any artwork. It would have the title on top. And this would come in a plain brown box with your instructions, your decals. They would also have your mini marquees, which, let's get a close-up right here. So another main difference, instead of having big giant marquees like these cabinets, or even something like that, it came with little tiny marquees. And you just open this up and, you know, they slide in and out. Real nice and simple. Now back to the cartridge. So yeah, you know, it comes in a little box, nothing major. Now collectors like to store their extra games in shock boxes. There's a couple companies that make them. I usually get mine from, geez, I can't remember the place. I think it's called Shockbox or... I don't know, I can't remember. I'll try and put up a link. But these are cool. They come in various types of artwork for the game. Sometimes people submit their artwork. But this one, as you can see, is Real Bout Fatal Fury Special. One of my favorite Neo Geo fighting games. And if you can look at my collection here, it isn't very big, but it's the only fighting game that I have. So, you know, this is some nice artwork. Got the characters there. Megs. The back. Let's just take a look at another one. Here we go, Baseball Stars 2. again, this is just a really nice way to store your MVS cartridges. Because again, they were just blank cartridges, and you know, setting them up, you know, blank really doesn't do anything for you in terms of appeal. But if you use these shock boxes, adds a little more character. Now, one thing to remember, and this is good for the arcade collector, Neo Geo MVS games are not the same as Neo Geo AES. The games for the home console will not work on your Neo Geo cabinet. The games, now on the flip side, if you're a collector, the MVS games will not work on the home console without a certain type of adapter. Now the good thing for the collectors is MVS games, the arcade games, the versions of those games are a lot cheaper than the console versions. So yeah, that's where we didn't get lucked out. But yeah, so there we are. You see the games. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Take a look at the inside. Nothing fancy, is what it is. Let's turn this light off. There we go. Now, usually up there, the game that's selected, the marquee will actually be highlighted. Mine's not. So unfortunately, that's, you know, you gotta get that fixed. But here you are, the Neo Geo cabinets. Again, one game, multiple, or one cabinet, multiple games on a single location. Now it's also good because if you are a fan of Neo Geo, unlike your JAMA cabinet, you get tired of one game or you want to quickly play another game, you have to open it up, unscrew the PCB, remove the JAMA harness, you know, put in the new one, attach, screw down, you know, then close it back up. The Neo Geo, you got 4 games already to choose from, or 2, or 6, or maybe only 1. But to switch them out, it's just like a cartridge. Or it is a cartridge. You pull it out, put the new one in. So, as you can see, it's going through the games. Now, let's put some credits in here. Alright. Let's go for player 2 also. Another cool feature is you got these coin credit counters. You can see player 1 has 8 credits, player 2 has 8 credits. We'll just let's go to number 1. So that's a nice little feature. Left player start button, right player start button, your controls. The middle button would be to select your game. So you know how there's 4 games in here? You look at this game, you're in the arcade, you're not quite sure you want to play it. You want to play something else? Press the button. And it switches to the next game. So in its time, it was a very innovative feature. That's well, there we go. Metal Slug 3. Sorry for the reflection. And we'll press again. Aero Fighters 2. So, despite what people may think, the Neo Geo cabinet was a great cabinet, had a great selection of games, and it was very ahead of its time. Take a look right there. Now, of course, the Neo Geo games weren't as popular as, say, the Street Fighter games, or, you know, maybe even in certain circumstances as, you know, the Golden Axes of the day, Final Fight, but it did have its own fan base. Now, if you're going to collect Neo Geo cabinets, something you must be aware of. If you decide to get a 4-slot Neo Geo motherboard, those have a tendency for the sound to go out. I think it's the sound capacitors. In fact, it has to be. But, you know, you'll be playing, you'll notice the sound starting to fading in and out. It'll be time to get it repaired. Now, another cool feature... Let me see, I might have to turn this off, turn the light back on. Or let's see, can we do it here? Maybe. These motherboards also had a volume switch attached. Let's see. Probably can't see it, but it's right down there, and it's just a little switch that goes back and forth, and that's how you adjusted your volume. Oh, looks like we selected the game. Now, one of the reasons why it had a volume switch, you could also install headphones. And, you know, I guess if you wanted to play that way, I'm not sure why. But if you have a 4-slot motherboard and you're noticing the sound is getting low and you're constantly having to slightly adjust your sound higher, then it's time to get it repaired. And that's because the sound is going to be going out. Let's take a look right here. Oh, I guess I should be batting. Let's see. Let's one-handed play. Let's see what we could do here. Nice. Let's do one more just for the heck of it. Come on. That's no good. Oh, I was wrong. Alright, let's do one more. Maybe we could hit a home run here. Oh. Alright. Guess it was 2-player. Didn't realize that. Is it a home run? Nice! Alright. Now, let me show you another innovative feature that was way ahead of its time. It was probably deemed really stupid, except for the rich friends you had who had Neo Geo home consoles. And that is the card reader. Now, you can't see it, but it's kind of covered up. Neo Geo cabinets also had a memory card. Think of it like your original PlayStation memory cards, only years in advance, or, you know, came out years prior. But it was a memory card, and so let's just say you're playing Baseball Stars 2. You're playing in the arcade, you're at the bottom of the 6th inning, it's time to go home. You stick your, or my understanding is you stick your memory card in, and it saves your progress. You go home, you put in your Baseball Stars 2 game, and you're back where you started once you put the memory card in. So you're at the bottom of the 6th. Now, if you think about it, that's kind of stupid. Why would you go to the arcade to play a game that you essentially already had at home? Because remember, the Neo Geo home consoles were, you know, arcade perfect. So it was kind of a good idea, but, you know, again, why would you do that? Unless, you know, you played a game at the arcade, you liked it, you saved your progress, and then, you know, you tell your mom, you know what? Mom, Dad, I want to go to the store and buy this game for my home console. that's really the only good reason I could think of why the memory card feature was there. I only had one friend who had the Neo Geo, so maybe that's what he did. So, you know, kind of a good idea, but kind of stupid at the same time. Unfortunately, I also hear the memory cards kind of get defective after a while. So yeah, this is kind of just a more in-depth review of why the Neo Geo Arcade cabinet is, just really a cool cabinet. You would think the Neo Geo only had fighters. SNK was known for the many fighters it had, but as you can see, I'm a fighter fan and I only have one fighting game. It had had other games which were great: Metal Slug, Blazing Star, Baseball Stars 2, and that's just to name a few. So there you are, just a little video of the Neo Geo Arcade cabinet. If you have any questions, let me know. Kind of just doing this video off the top of my head, so I'm sure I missed something, but there you are. Until next time.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.